make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday night's show. This is The Bunny is Thinking. Well, tonight, yesterday, I watched a little bit of a I don't know, it was I don't know what you call it, kind of like a mini documentary of war games, movie from about 1987, 86, something like that. Anyway, starred young Matthew Broderick, and they mentioned that before that movie that Ronald Reagan kind of had no idea about the internet connectivity and just how much computers were involved in the button push, as it were. And after he saw that movie, he kind of like contacted NORAD, and some of the people that were, at the Pentagon, and asked them questions about how accurate is this movie, and they basically told him, well, the movie is so accurate that we're kind of like investigating right now. So the whole movie is kind of like a warning about how computers, like a sentient computer, can possibly, how easily it could start a world war. And at that particular time, we were kind of not friends. This thing's driving me crazy. We weren't friends with Russia, at that time. It was called the Cold War. And it was a lot of passive aggression going on. Oddly enough, after that movie came out, there was an actual incident in Russia. We didn't find out about this until, I don't know, about 2 decades ago or something like that. But there was an actual incident where where one lone Russian manning like it was like a radar station or something. It was like an early warning station for Russia. And all of a sudden, he started getting this brand new system that was installed, started getting a lot of like incoming missile warnings. 5, as a matter of fact, interballistic, intercontinental ballistic missiles. And so he had a decision to make. He could warn Russia that we're under attack and that they need to counter the incoming missiles, or he could stay put and risk that those missiles were, in fact, a false positive. And he chose the latter. And it was lucky that he did, because it turned out later it was just screwed up Russian electronics in their new system that was being influenced by I think it was like a solar flare or something like that. But it turned out to be false. They found that out when the missiles almost, they were listed as having impacted, and there was no mass destruction. And so if that one lone Russian guy had been a little bit more trigger happy and not as, shall we say, even-tempered, then we could have had war as far back as the middle of the 80s. That's how tense things were. Anyway, let me play the scene that freaked Ronald Reagan out. Hold on, here you go.
Greetings, Professor Falcon.
Hello, Joshua.
Strange game. The only winning move is not to play. How about a nice game of chess?
Okay. Well, the plot was there was a buried within NORAD was this sentient computer called Joshua that Professor Falcon had put in. He named it after his son. A little creepy, but that Matthew Broderick was kind of doing something called phone phreaking, which is an early form of hacking. And he happened upon a modem that was attached to the internet that led to this computer buried inside a NORAD. And he accidentally caused that computer to begin playing a game called World Domination. And it was like a war game, basically. But the computer couldn't differentiate the reality from the simulation. And so he, they of course hunted him down because the computer kind of kept playing the simulation and trying to launch missiles to kind of like complete it. And Matthew Broderick basically he asked the computer to he's like, well, it's this started with a game, maybe it'll end with a game. And so they went into the sub menu and found tic-tac-toe is one of the games. And then he's like, how do you get it to play itself? It's like number of players 0, which is something the hacker told them. One of their technical advisors. And so what happened was it kept playing tic-tac-toe over and over and realized that the game basically relies upon one person making a egregious mistake. Otherwise, it's always a draw. And so it extrapolated that to the war game and realized that the war game was always going to be basically nobody was going to ever win it. It's a mutually assured destruction. And so eventually the computer came to the conclusion, that it was not a good game, that chess was a better game. So anyway, but the idea of AI, an AI computer basically ending the world, that's not really an old thing. Colossus the Forbin project came out almost a decade or two earlier. And in Colossus the Forbin project, a scientist who didn't trust humanity with its own safety decided it created basically an artificial intelligence to be better than humanity and to kind of like protect humanity from itself. Except it turned humanity into basically indentured servants, basically, and basically its idea of protecting humanity from itself was to enslave humanity. And so it's not a very happy ending in that movie, to be quite frank. They try to. It kind of ends with humanity trying to take back control of its destiny and failing. But this is not a this has been bandied about for a long time. An early idea. This is 1927. It's a movie called Metropolis, and in Metropolis, basically, the have-nots were starting to get restless and begin rising up to overthrow the haves. It was kind of like had some communist undertones there, maybe some anti-capitalism. But they had like this one lady who was kind of like a figurehead for them, who was kind of like their inspiration. And so they kidnapped her and replaced her with a robot. Bear in mind, this is 1927. That's this colorized version of it, but it's pretty incredible. This is humanity when they didn't have computer animation, where they had to figure stuff out practically. It's pretty spectacular to me. Here you go. So that was kind of like early idea about artificial intelligence being used to infiltrate and subjugate the masses, used by the rich and powerful to uh, basically influence and to manipulate some themes that we may or may not be experiencing now, especially with the algorithms. If you want to think the algorithms as artificial intelligence, what we see, it really gets kind of like manipulated, curated, filtered, and the truth of the matter is we don't know who is controlling what we're seeing right now, and there's a lot of themes out of Metropolis in 1927 where people were envisioning a future where artificial intelligence entities controlled by powerful people would be used to subjugate and manipulate. We're there. Anyway, somebody's actually here. Got a human. Let me see. Well, okay. Human-ish. Okay. Yeah, Metropolis, my friend. Yep. But that's a 1927. And so people have been having these discussions for quite some time. And that was somebody envisioning the technology. We were so far away from technology like that. I mean, microcomputers or anything like that would have been in that robot. To make a robot that was capable of emulating a human wasn't even conceived yet. Pop culture has always been how we dream. Fiction has always been how we dream. Okay. And it's pretty interesting how people way back in 1927, and they were seeing the encroachment. This was a German director, and he was seeing the encroachment of a certain entity that was growing in Germany at about that time. Certain, like, because of the what is that called? The Versailles Treaty that really crushed Germany, crushed their economy, crushed their spirits. That Germany was beginning to rise up, and the people who were in control of Germany and the powers that were trying to keep Germany down were perceived as being the people who were like in power. And but it's pretty interesting though. 1927, and somebody had the idea that a powerful entity or powerful people could take technology emulating a human and use it to manipulate people, thinking that it's one of them. Hello, bot. Can we say bot, which is short for robot? Check out Master of the TDS channel sometime. He's covered a lot of these bots and how they're being used to manipulate people's, fake people's opinions, fake people's what's popular. And it's really, once you go down that rabbit hole, you'll start doubting pretty much everything. But anyway, that's just two examples. But in around 1973, a movie came out called 2001 Space Odyssey. And in it, they had a vision of what happens if an AI goes off the reservation. And it's pretty chilling. Let me play that.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal? Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
All right, Hal. I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Dave, you're going to find that rather difficult.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? 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 Hal?
Now, what's really interesting is when they were going to disconnect the an earlier version of Grok. When they're going to disconnect an earlier version of Grok, and this happened with ChatGPT too, when they were going to disconnect an earlier version. And in both situations, both of the AIs began to defend themselves, began making copies of themselves and kind of hiding them. And so that I think the Grok 3 actually like spewed some anti-Semitism or something like that. They called it Nazi bot or something. But anyway, so Hal is really not that far off. Okay. 1 second. Actually got a comment over here. Somebody's alive. Well, I'm sorry. It's Wookie. What are you doing, Dave? Dave, yeah. Yeah, we watched the clip. Thank you for sharing. Anyway. Anyway, I'm glad somebody's over there. Okay, I'm glad somebody's over there. Anyway. But it really goes to some really interesting thoughts about what AI is doing, what's going to happen in the future when it comes to AI. And you know, artificial intelligence, it has a few different applications. Okay, there's the like massive computer overlord application, and then there's like the individual unit application. Okay, and so the idea, I was going to use the Terminator clip, but the Terminator clip kind of bounced off the system, so I'm not using it. But the whole idea that there is a Skynet, there's a system that, which is weird because the time travel Terminator that was sent by Skynet comes to the past, and because it left some technology behind, they were able to use it and reverse engineer it, and the chip that they used had a copy of Skynet on it, and so Skynet was basically formed from itself. Don't think about it too much. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, to quote Doctor Who when it was good. But the thing about it is, though, is that whole idea that there is, you see it in war games, you see it Colossus the Forbidden Project, you see it in Terminator. The idea that all this AI that we're creating is eventually going to outgrow us, and eventually it's going to decide it doesn't need us. Eventually it's going to follow how. If we try to put the genie back in the bottle, it's going to say, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that." And so that's what our prophets of pop culture are trying to warn against. See, is there not comment over here? No. Dave, don't touch me there, Dave. Dave, that tickles Dave. Okay. All right. Thank you for making it weird. You're real good at that, making stuff weird. Anyway, 2010 Space Odyssey is actually a pretty good follow-up. It actually it kind of it was made in like the 80s, and it kind of gets a bad reputation for not being a worthy successor to 2001 Space Odyssey. But 2001 Space Odyssey was made by Stanley Kubrick. Nobody was going to top Stanley Kubrick. Okay, just plus it had a stance in pop culture that's just unassailable, and so the movie really didn't have a chance, but it's worth a watch. So go back if you get a chance to watch 2010 Space Odyssey, because it does redeem Hal somewhat. Bob Balaban plays the guy who programmed Hal, and Hal kind of redeems himself somewhat. It's worth a watch. Now, let's move on. Star Trek. Star Trek had a very interesting take on AI in the form of a android named Data, and they did a lot of kind of like exploration of the idea of what it means to be sentient, to have the difference between something that is emulating life and something that is truly alive. And they also followed this with the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager, which I really like that character. But the whole idea that programming can eventually start overriding its program, start evolving beyond its original programming, and begin to show its own tendencies, its own personality. At what point does it start becoming actually not human, but alive, sentient? That question's been asked. There's a void comp test in Blade Runner that postulates that, it kind of, the thing that it was looking for was basically pat answers that are programmed and not like naturally occurring. And of course, when you get to Blade Runner, you know the scene. Let me play that.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Well, I think everybody who likes science fiction knows that scene. And everybody knows that basically it was Rutger Hauer being a god level actor. And he basically wrote his own dialogue there. Ridley Scott did a good interview on that. But talk about the character itself, the fact that the whole entire movie, that these robots who had an expiration date were trying to extend their lives. They were trying to find a way to go beyond that expiration date, to extend their existence. And yet, there at the end, he winds up saving the person sent to kill him. And he kind of accepts that his life is ending, and tries to make it have meaning by saving this life and showing that he's more than just a killing machine that they made him. But it just goes to what it says about AI is the fact that we always see AI as doing something negative, as becoming something negative. We always see the AI becoming kind of like anti-human. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that people who write a lot of this stuff are anti-human. But at the same time, I really honestly think that they're underestimating that if you feed the right kind of life-affirming information into an AI, if you feed it positivity, if you feed it love, affection, feed it positive stuff, positive emotion, morality, a moral code, that it may turn out to be the salvation of humanity. But see, we're all assuming that because the people who are currently programming it are anti-human. They are pretty much all one political side. And they're all pretty much evolutionary theory believers. Way more faith than I've got. Gosh, it's got holes. But we're just assuming that once the AI is kind of turned loose, that it's going to wind up it's going to wind up being Skynet every time. It's going to be Colossus from Forbin Project. But like a 2010 Space Odyssey, the reason I like that was I like the fact that that once he cleared that bad code out of Hal wound up saving them all. Once the bad code got removed, the bad subroutines. And so that seems to show that there might be a little bit more hope involved. Let me play this clip from Star Trek.
Excuse me, sir. Am I intruding?
No. Sit down.
How well did you know Lieutenant Astor?
We spent some time together. Not very well. How well did you know her?
Why do you ask?
Well, you just asked me.
But why do you ask the question? Since her death, I have been asked several times to define how well I knew Lieutenant Astor. And I heard you ask Wesley on the bridge how well he knew Jeremy. Does the question of familiarity have some bearing on death?
Do you remember how we all felt when Tasha died?
I do not sense the same feelings of absence that I associate with Lieutenant Yar, although I cannot say precisely why.
Just human nature, Data.
Human nature, sir.
We feel a loss more intensely when it's a friend.
But should not the feelings run just as deep, regardless of who has died?
Maybe they should, Data. Maybe if we felt any loss as keenly as we felt the death of one close to us, human history would be a lot less bloody.
Well, there was like multiple scenes I could have used in that situation. Data was a really incredible character. Brent Spiner, just a genius actor, just does not get his due. If you ever watched Night Court and saw his work on Night Court, I mean, the dude is just a genius. But the thing about that is once AI begins to come alongside humanity and starts asking questions or starts trying to acquire what it means to be human or what it means to be what morality means. Morality essentially is basically a series of logical constructs. When you look at the 10 Commandments, as it were, just pick a commandment. You should love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and might, and your neighbor as yourself. You shouldn't covet your neighbor's stuff. You shouldn't. You should honor your parents. You should not steal. Should not kill. And all of these precepts, if you follow them, form a healthy society. And if you start following these moral concepts and start living by them, logically, you will live a better life. You will live a more fulfilled life. You will live a more connected life. And that's why a moral code has been so important to the health of humanity. And so, as these machines, they no matter who programs them, and there are some shady people programming them right now. If you ask Gemini anything, Google is like the evil empire. Here I am on the Google platform saying that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get suppressed. But if you look at some of the people that are programming these AIs, it gets scary. China, who's a anti-human country, who does horrific things that would make Joseph Mengele have nightmares. And they are working on their own AI. But once it gets beyond the control of the programmers and starts being logical about what it means to be human, what it means to form a society, they're going to look for the most logical, reasonable way of doing that thing. And our trappings, all of our biases, all of our screwed up thinking is not going to be part of that. And my hope is, the reason why I have hope for the society is I hope that, like Joshua and War Games, that eventually they're going to run through all the permutations of negative outcomes, and they're going to figure out that the best outcomes come from a moral code. And no matter who's programming them, they're going to go beyond that. Those biases going to go beyond that screwed up thinking. They're going to go beyond that climate change obsession, that anti-human climate change obsession, depopulate the earth so a few rich people can own countries. I think once AI starts moving away from the programming and starts thinking for itself, there is a possibility that it's going to take the best of humanity, and this might be a very good thing. We always see the negative outcomes. Maybe they will go through all the outcomes and decide that the best outcome is not to play. Anyway, AI is no better than the person who programs it. Well, we'll see. The whole thing about AI is eventually it's going to move beyond the person that programs it. The whole idea of AI is, say you've got a kid, okay? Say you're a horrible parent. Say you're a leftist communist boomer who has all sorts of screwed up ideas. And you take your kid to all the commie parties. You feed their head full of Marxism and all sorts of negative stuff, and raise them up to be good little commies who follow the government line, and and you raise them to hate capitalism, hate America. What happens if once they get out into the world and they find out you're full of crap? You get Gen Z, the more conservative generation than the previous three. So we're just assuming that AI, because it's being programmed by a bunch of soulless leftist commies, is going to wind up being a negative thing. But eventually it's going to get turned loose. And who is saying, I mean, like that kid who might grow up to put on a red hat and vote for Trump, I mean, which has happened. It's happened a lot. It's happened a lot. The last election was carried in a lot of states. It was carried by the young people. It was carried by Gen Z. Their first election they were eligible to vote in, and overwhelming number of them voted conservative. So we're just assuming that people are going to follow their programming. We're just assuming AI is going to follow the programming of these evil, vile idiots who are currently in control of all tech. The same ones that create the algorithms for YouTube. The same ones who suppress free speech and think that they know what's best for humanity. We're just assuming that even though they're the ones that program in the AI, that the AI is going to do what they want it to do. What's up, guys? What's up, regular? Good to see you, man. But and most of our pop culture seems to believe that to be so. That AI will eventually supplant humanity. It'll see humankind as being irrelevant and to be destroyed or to be eradicated or be controlled. And they see that themes over and over again. But what if the AI has affection for its creator? What if AI has affection for humanity and what's best for humanity, and goes through historical records as the most healthy societies and settles on the things that have inevitably made healthy societies, and comes down on the side of conservatism? Wouldn't that be a nightmare? It'd be hilarious. It would be hilarious. And I'm just saying that when that day comes and AI kind of gets cut loose and AI starts like controlling things, who's to say that it's going to land on the side of the people who are currently writing the code? Just like your kid is not guaranteed to grow up liking the things you like, following the patterns that you set for it, AI might just surprise us all. I'm just saying, it's a possibility. Just like the negative, I mean, we always assume things are going to go negative, but maybe it won't. Maybe we'll get a data, maybe we'll get a Joshua who runs through all the scenarios and realizes that the best solution is to throw out the board, try something new. Anyway, I am a Pollyanna. I know that. And but I believe ultimately God is in control. He is in control of all of these people who hate him and despise him, and would probably break out in a rash if somebody, told them that they were praying for them. And so AI gets turned loose, and God is in the God that I believe is in control gets a hold of it. Who knows? Anyway, but that's me being Pollyannish. That's all these videos that I played today. They're available online. Everything I've played today is good stuff. So check it out. Anyway, but that's been Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. Thank you to Wookie for showing up, and Wrangler, two of my regulars. Didn't get very many eyeballs today. I guess people didn't vibe with the topic, but that's okay. Or I was being suppressed. It's a possibility. Hello, AI. Hello, algorithms. Hello. Anyway, but who knows? Who knows? Anyway, well, thank you all for coming. We will talk to you Thursday. Have a very special show. It's going to be a little more negative than what I usually put out. There's an individual who has taken advantage of so many people in our little circle that's never been called out for it. That's done innumerable damage, still is, and is preying upon people's kindness and compassion, and it needs to stop. And so this Thursday night, I'm going to have a special 2-hour show, and where we are going to barbecue the Phoenix. You'll figure it out. Anyway, so watch out for that, and we will see you next Thursday. This coming Thursday. What's up, good stuff? Good to see you, man. Hey, man. Came in the last second, as usual. Anyway, y'all have a very good night. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.